I will refer the previous session. I will give some overview of the previous session and we'll proceed further. This is this is the regular trend which we used to follow because so some people may just attend the session, they may practice later. So that might help them to uh, improve their skills easily. Okay. So what we discussed yesterday, is anyone knows about it? Or let me start from my side. Okay, yesterday we talked about the fundamentals of computers, what exactly the computer, why we are talking about the computer, and why the computer is a major role in our SAP landscape or SAP systems, and why we are using the computer and where we are using the computer. So 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 we already talked about the what you called hardware and software. So what is the importance of the hardware and software? So let me brief it again so that everyone knows the some idea. Someone might be having some non-IT background, someone might be having the different background. So that will help them to proceed further and understand easily. Okay. Now, so regularly we are using the computers. The computers are totally we may not be able to use the physical property. Let's say, so if you want to use your laptop directly, you may not be able to use it, and the server also may not be able to use it. So there is a dependency with the operating system. There is a dependency with the operating system. What is the dependency with the operating system? Because the operating system means this is your laptop and I'm sitting here and I'm sitting here somewhere and I'm trying to access this laptop. So I'm not, my language may not be able to convey the content to the laptop. The reason is the laptop may understand the different language. So I'm belongs to somewhere North Indian. So I can easily understand Hindi. So someone might be from South India. So they may understand local and regional languages. Okay, so the South may not be able to understand the North Indian language. North Indians may not be able to understand the South Indian language. So there might be a one person who can guide them with the languages and all. The same way, whatever my expectation is there, I'm going to convey through the operating system. Operating system. Without this operating system, I may not be able to convey my information to the operating system, and this is my way. But even if the operating system want to respond back to me, then also it's required, the laptop want to respond back to me, then also we require the operating system support, because it is getting with the some number value or some value, so it is conveyed to the English and it will display to me, right? So this is how the hardware and software is totally connected everywhere. If you go to the mobile or if you go to any of the scenario, just take it any scenario, everywhere you may see the same scenarios. So hardware and software both are always connected, and without those, if we are not have if you have a hardware, if you have a laptop, if you are not able to install, if you are not having the software, then there is no use to access your laptop. And let's say you have a operating system, and if you don't have a laptop, then there's something wrong with your hardware, then there is no use to have the software, right? So without these two products, we may not be able to survive in the market. So now, so what is the role of this operating system in SAP? So you don't need to learn anything separately for operating systems and all, and you don't require to get the expertise knowledge in what you call networking or what voice level things. So it's a regular activities. Whatever we do, we are not going to install anything in the voice level. So there is a separate resource for that. Is the infra person we used to call it as a. He's going to take care of this hardware related task. And coming to the hardware software, we talked about the hardware software. And yesterday we talked about this thing, programming software. So what is mean by programming software? Programming software is like a Java related part and Java related, and as well as the Java related or Python related. So those comes to the coding related, whatever it is, we call it as a programming software. And if you see, I think you might got this document. If not, you will get this document. And today Today, today you may get the document this. So, and what is meant by system software? System software is nothing but operating system. System software is nothing but operating system. System software is nothing but operating system. Okay, like Windows, Linux, SUSE Linux, and AX, Solaris. There are the different operating system we used to have. So those things will be taken care through the system software. Coming to the application software, application software is nothing but, so let's say this is SAP. So I will give you one more example for application softwares and the operating system. You are using the mobile. So okay, whatever the applications you are installing, let's say Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, whatever you are going to install, everything will be called it as a application softwares only. This is just an interface where we are accessing our server, our system through the client scenarios. Okay, with using of this application software, we are going to access the data. Okay, now, so you guys know about LinkedIn, right? So you might be having the question, sir, what is the LinkedIn? Why we are using here the link? Why we are talking about the LinkedIn here? So I just want to share something. So there is a server, there is a s- LinkedIn server here. Okay, and you are accessing. This is located in somewhere in Canada. Let's say UK. Okay, and you are sitting somewhere here in let's say India. From here, you want to access the LinkedIn data. How we are going to access? Are you going to UK and accessing this? No, you are accessing through LinkedIn application app or app or you are going to access through browser. From the laptop browser you are accessing LinkedIn. From here, when you access this, it is going to the UK and it is fetching the data. Is that correct? Is that correct, guys? Let's keep this session as interactive. Let's, instead of keeping it silent. Okay. So whenever you open anything here, let's say LinkedIn, where it is. Yeah, I'm just opening linkedin.com. So what it's going to the so and so linkedin.com. It is opening the page because it's going somewhere. So let me show you how it will go. Ping, trace, RT. So if you see from some India, we are accessing LinkedIn. So it's going where it's going. It's going to some my broadband network. From my broadband server to somewhere, it's going. From here, it may go. See, my broadband is act. So from my home, it went to the local router. From local router to it went to the main router. From main router, it's going to the Act fiber network. From there, it's trying to look the data where I should go and all. This information who is giving. So there might be predefined everything in the backend. So this is the flow how you are accessing one application using the network connectivities. And we are not directly going here. We are not saving our data directly there. We are passing the data from our laptop through the internet to the server. So you might be understanding here. So I am sitting here, I'm the person, I'm accessing the laptop. So if you see this laptop, this from this laptop, I'm just accessing the LinkedIn. So LinkedIn I'm accessing. So what is LinkedIn here? LinkedIn is the one of the application I'm accessing this. So this one we call it as, here I have a browser connectivity. So this one we call it as a client connectivity or client. We call it as a client. We call it as a client. Okay. And this one, whatever the LinkedIn it is there, we can call it as a server. Okay. We can call it as a server. Okay, server. So without this client, I may not be able to connect the server. Remember this. Without this client, I may not be able to connect the server. So always remember, any application, you take SAP, non-SAP, everything is totally dependent on the client and server architecture. Without this client and server architecture, you may not be able to get the access for all the scenarios, all the applications. So remember, client and server architecture is one of the important aspect in the market. Without those configuration, without those things, you may not be able to survive in the market. So what is the client architecture and what is the server architecture is you should know. So the client architecture is you are using some application, let's say Instagram. So Instagram. So Instagram also one of the application. You are just accessing Instagram. You are just accessing the Instagram using of the application. So how you are installing, how you are using the application? So you are just installing your application into the laptop or the mobile. From there, you are just accessing the server. Sometimes you may see the network slowness or some bad bandwidth issues and all. That time you may not be able to get the connectivity. So those are totally something related to the network related part. But you are not directly. Don't forget this concept. You are not directly accessing the server. You are just placing the information through one of the application. So that's why we call it as a uh, it's a client and server architecture. And coming to the SAP also client and server architecture. SAP is also having the same concept like a client and server architecture. So this server is belongs to somewhere, it's located in Delhi. Okay, this server is located in Delhi, but I'm sitting in Mumbai. I'm just accessing this server from my Mumbai network. So if you see, just I double clicked it, it's open. How it is open? See, this application is nothing to do with this. This is just interface. It's a middleware thing. It's a middleware part, or it's a mediator for SAP and me. So with using of this SAP logon pad, I'm accessing my server. So how I'm accessing? It's like a using the client interface. I'm accessing the server. So SAP is also one of the client and server architecture. SAP is also having client and server architecture. It's a one of the important aspect in the market or the connectivity. Okay, it's about the client and server architecture. Even yesterday we talked about the ERP. ERP is like a enterprise resource planning. So with using of one product, if you are able to perform n number of projects like insurance project, health project, or pipeline projects, or oil and gas, rigs, and what you call billing related, telecom related, finance related, customer related information. If you are able to perform all these things, so those product we call it as a we call it as a ERP product, ERP enterprise resource planning. If you see, SAP is having different models. So the production we call it as a production and planning. We have it the finance related. We have FI and account related. We have a FICO and CO controlling and all. So we have sales and distribution for SD, and if you want to have some marketing related, we have a material management and we have a CRM system, and everything will be there. So remember, guys, whatever the modules I'm writing here, so to use those models. So there is one person is required to perform this resources. So for the production, we may need different resources. HR, we may need separate resources. Planning, we need separate resources. Let's say, considering this, there are 100 resources are there. To work 100 SAP resources. Remember this word, 100 SAP resources. If you have 100 SAP resources, if they want to work, the first person supposed to work is a SAP basis person. SAP basis person. Remember, so without this basis guy, none of the person is able to perform any of the activity. None of the person is able to perform any of the activity, because if they have any issues, basis is supposed to resolve. And if they have any performance issues, base is supposed to resolve. If they want to access anything, base is supposed to create a user. And if they want to do some configuration, they're supposed to provide information so that basis can configure it. They want to connect with some other systems, basis need to create a configuration. And if they want to pass the message or pass the information to somewhere, their basis needs to work over there to establish the configurations or placements over there to transfer the data. So everywhere, just take it off any model, but the core person is the basis. Without basis, none of the resource is going to work in the market. So remember this point. Okay. And SAP is also one of the ERP product. And other than SAP, we have other vendors we have for ERP related, and PeopleSoft and Microsoft, Gradient Plains and IBM related frames and everything. Different we have. Those are belongs to ERP related. Not only this, we have other as well. Okay. So now let's go to the SAP. So SAP is like SAP stands for Systems, Application and Products. So it's like SAP is a Germany product. It's a Germany product introduced on 1970s. So they call it as a SAP AG company. So SAP AG company, those they introduced as a SAP on 1970s. 1970s. Okay. SAP introduced on 1970s. They introduced with the R1. They introduced with the R1, and R1 is like a release and the single tier architecture, and R2 is like a two tier architecture and release 2. And later they introduced as a R3 as a three tier architecture and release 3, and along with it they introduced as a SAP ERP product. So enterprise resource planning, that the product name itself SAP ERP. So I'm going to explain you what is the difference between R1, R2, R3 today. Today's class I'm going to explain you. Okay. Initially SAP was having the huge prices and all. So last 10-15 years, around 10 years somehow, they came into the market and they're capturing like anything. Whatever the Oracle market was having, entirely migrating to the SAP because of their user friendliness and their product user friendliness. So based on that, the companies are migrating their data to SAP. So that is one of the important aspect. One of the important aspect you can say it. Because so if you have an Oracle database, the Oracle database performance is like a 5 hours. One query execution is 5 hours. The same query in SAP HANA, it is going to run in 15 to 20 minutes. See the fastness. See the fastness here. So because everything is like a it's totally dependent on the RAM and the CPU. Those configurations we have it in SAP. Okay. So coming to the industries, what are the industries it's going to support? As I mentioned, so it's going to support oil and gas, chemical, pharmaceutical, and automotive. And as I said yesterday, I told someone it's like Asian Paints and all. So AT&T is one of the mobile network in the US. So AT&T is also having, and what you call ICC India International Cricket Academy or something. So that is also having. They are also using the SAP product for analytical skills and all. Because so whenever the batsman is playing something, the last 10 years data, and the team is playing something in the next 5 hours or 10 hours, how they are going to uh, play, what is the score they are going to do, those type of things will be done through the SAP only. So utilities, so in US many of the states, what they are using the SAP products to do the payments for the utilities. What type of payments it is? It's a gas payment, water payment, or power payment. So whatever the utilities we used to have, everything they can be done through the utilities option or SAP option. Okay. Now coming to the products, whatever we have, SAP products. So SAP products is like SAP is having different products here. So for the small scale industries, SAP has been introduced. For the small scale industries, SAP has been introduced. SAP Business One. SAP Business One is the one of the product. It is for the very small scale industries like supermarkets. If they want to, they don't have a budget to spend for the product. So those type of scenarios. So the SAP introduces small scale products. So small scale products, that is the SAP Business One. The remaining business by demand and all business in one configured and business with everything is like it's like a combined, composited. Everything will be available in one shot. So if you want to use ECC system, the ECC system is available for FI consultant, basis consultant, ABAP consultant, consultant, SD consultant. So there are n number of consultants can work on this. There are n number of consultants can use this resource, use this system. So with this ECC system, n number of consultants or multiple consultants can perform all the activities, and they can perform the different projects. So it's not only about the one product. So it's about the connectivity between the modules, how the SD is connected with the MM is connected with the SD connected with the utilities. So it's a connectivity between all the resources. Okay, those type of things we have it in SAP. And coming to the SAP version scenario, if you see the version here, so we have initially they call it as a R3 scenario. From the R3 it start working properly. So R3, from R3 it went to the ECC, EC2 to SEC. Along with that, we have a native versions and HANA databases. So parallelly, they introduced S4 HANA. And remember, S4 HANA equivalent to the ECC, equivalent in terms of it is a advanced to the ECC. S4 HANA is a advanced to the ECC. So when you say ECC, it's a legacy database. Legacy databases means in Oracle or on top of Oracle or on top of SQL, on top of any other DB, it's going to be work, it's going to support. But when it's come to the S4 HANA, it may not work. It will not work other than HANA database. If you want to install S4 HANA on Oracle database, no, it's not going to available, or it's not going to compatible with that Oracle. So S4 HANA is specific to HANA databases only. Okay. Okay, and this was the discussion which we had yesterday. So as I mentioned yesterday, so these are the modules where I'm saying this thing. So to work these consultants, whoever is there, okay, to work this consultant, the only one consultant we needed is SAP basis. Without this guy, without this basis guy, none of these consultant may not be able to work. This is true. If you have any contacts, go and search over there. Okay. And now let's go into the new topic. Okay. Any questions so far? Let's have a 1 minute break here if you have any questions. Anyone? And if you want to ask anything, just text me here in the chat so that I can see and I can respond back. If not, I will proceed further. Anyone? Okay, great. Let me proceed further. So now, so you might be having the question, sir, you keep on saying SAP is a client and server architecture. What it mean by client and server architecture? Okay, what it mean by client and server architecture? The client and server architecture is, you are just, if you see the screen here, so I am sitting somewhere, I'm sitting somewhere in India. This is my laptop. In my laptop, I installed SAP Logon Pad. This is my SAP screen. Is the SAP screen one of the important tool and one of the beautiful tool in the market, because none of the tools is having this much of compatibility and easy configurations. So here you can easily configure and segregate the system. So let's say I just want to add for these are the customers which I'm supporting. So let's say BAP customer. So this BAP customer is having development and quality and production. And this is my real-time systems, guys. It's not a test systems, it's a real-time systems, whereas I'm supporting clients now. Okay. So if I want to access this system, if I want to access this system from some India, okay, and which system it is, let me see which time zone it is in. Let me log in first. Okay, so the time zone yesterday I think is 11:30. So it's 11 o'clock. So it's a Singapore, it's a Malaysian time zone. It's a Malaysian time zone. So I'm accessing the system from India. I'm in India. Okay, from India, I'm accessing this Singapore system. How I'm accessing? Through my laptop, I have installed SAP Logon Pad. I have installed SAP Logon Pad. So I just connected my laptop, I connected SAP logon pad. This logon pad is connecting SAP application server, which is hosted in Singapore. Okay, it went to the Singapore within the fraction of milliseconds, and it fetched the data. Boss, someone is coming for you to access the SAP system. It did pass the message, and so that immediately we got a screen. So that we got a screen immediately. So it is asking for it, popped out and stating that give the username and password. You're not allowed to log. You are not allowed directly to access. To get into this, you need to place your username and password. So who is going to provide this username and password? Initially, the basis resource used to provide this username and password. Initially, the basis resource used to provide this username and password. And the later, based on the segregation of duties, there is a separate consultant came into the picture. Is a SAP security consultant. SAP basis consultant will take care of, SAP basis admin will take care of admin aspects. And initially, say basis person used to take care of user administration as well. But now we have a separate team called SAP security and GRC. GRC is like a risk and governance. So what this security team will do, whenever they want to create any users, so the security team will go and create a users, and it's a one-time configuration. And let's say if basis we have, in my previous project, I was 40 members of basis resource. We have only 2 security and GRC resource. Just imagine. So what was the dependency on basis and what was the demand for the basis and demand for the GRC and security? So when it's go to the previous project, there was a 25 resources of basis and 1 resource for the security and all, because the security is a one small part in the basis which has been segregated, from the basis. And as part of this segregation, they introduced one more concept called GRC. With using of GRC concept, they are going to use multiple, they are going to integrate with the multiple systems, so that if you have a 10 systems, you don't need to log in 10 systems at a time to access the system. Just request from one time, request from one place where you are going to get the user access. That is the beauty of the GRC. Okay, that is the beauty of GRC. So we'll talk more about this in GRC and security and basis part. Okay, now let's jump into this orientation of this software. Okay, where let's say I'm just accessing from India to Singapore through logon pad. My request went to the Singapore, and from the Singapore, what it said. So someone is placed the username and password. I'm just allowing him. So they just pass the message to the message server. The application server pass the message to the message server. The message server will inform the database team. Boss, someone came into the system and is accessing, is performing something. What should I do? Do I need to perform something or not? So just it's a process. The first request will go to the GUI, from the GUI application server to message server to database. Why it's going to the database? Because every single aspect, whatever you are performing in the SAP, everything will be depend on the database only. So the request will go to the database. If you want to do the select, and it will go to the database. If you want to do the delete, it will go to the database. If you want to update, it will go to the database. Everything will be dependent with the database. And back, once whatever the select statement you given, so the database will respond back to the message server. From the message server, it will go to the application server. From application server, it will come to the GUI. From here, it is going to display to the user. That's why if you see the right hand side, I clearly stated. So the first request from SAP logon pad, SAP GUI, it is going to the application layer. From application layer, it is where it is going. It's going to the database layer. It's going to the database layer. Okay, and once it reaches the database layer, what is saying? It's sending back the information to the application layer. From here, it is coming to the presentation layer. So if you see the naming convention, presentation layer, what is mean by presentation layer? The presentation layer is like a front-end tool where whatever the output system is providing, you can able to see the data through SAP logon pad. That's why SAP is a three-tier architecture. SAP is like a three-tier architecture. The tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 is totally database layer, application layer, and presentation layer. The database layer and application layer and presentation layer. What presentation layer will do? You can see the visualization through the presentation layer. And what is application layer will do? Whatever the presentation layer is going to protect or present to the user, right? Those information from the backend application layer will send the data to the presentation layer. That means this application layer will send the data to GUI. And who is sending this data to application layer? The database is sending the data. Okay, so that's why we call it as a three-tier architecture. The presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. These three are connected together. Okay, next we'll go to the further topics. Okay, so this is how the user will connectivity. As I said, the user is sitting somewhere, and the users are sitting somewhere. They're accessing the server. They're accessing the server. They're accessing the server. What the server is doing, it is sending the data to the database. Okay, from database, the data is responding back to the server. From server, they are sending the data to the users. They're sending the data to the users. See, it's like a presentation layer. This is a presentation layer. This is the application layer. This is a database layer. So these three are totally interconnected. These three are totally interconnected. We should understand these concepts. Okay. And so we were talking about the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and release 1, release 2, release 3. Interesting topic. This is a very interesting topic and important topic here. So if you see here, the architecture of SAP, initially they introduced a R1 scenario. When they introduced on 1972, okay, where they introduced first single tier. Single tier is nothing but everything will be hosted. So you install your database. Okay, this is a server. Okay, one server, let's say one laptop. This is one laptop. Okay, inside this laptop, you just install the database, you install your SAP application, and you install SAP login pad as well. To access the server, the person who is sitting here, me, the Manju, want to access this SAP server. What Manju needs to do? Manju needs to log into the SAP server. Manju needs to want to access the SAP server. What he need to do? He just simply go to the server and he simply access the systems here. So to access anything, he just need to directly access the SAP system and he need to process everything. That is about the single tier architecture. And let's see the two-tier architecture. The two-tier architecture also introduced on 1970s. Three-tier is introduced on 1992. Okay, so the two-tier architecture is like so you have a server. Let's say laptop. You have a laptop. You install your SAP database. You install your SAP application, but in other laptop, you might install the SAP, login pad or SAP GUI. With using of this Manju is going to access SAP system using of this UI. Through GUI is accessing the SAP system. The difference between the tier 1 and tier 2 is here everything will be installed in one box, and where it's come to the two-tier architecture, it installed the database and application in one host and other thing on GUI on other host. Whereas the user can easily access the server from other network. It's not about the same network. Okay. And coming to the three-tier architecture, what three-tier architecture will do? In the three-tier architecture is totally different. Like the database will be in the different host. See, I have a database hosted here. I have a database hosted here. I have an application hosted here, and I have a GUI is hosted here. So the GUI will go to application. Application will send the data to database, and it will respond back to the application. Again, it will respond back to the user. I mean, presentation layer, GUI presentation layer. So it's like a three database, three layers we have. Okay, that's why we call it as a three-tier architecture. Okay, and when it's come to the platform, on which platform it's going to support, the single tier one is to support on DOS based systems. That means everything will be command based things only. Okay, if you want to write anything, if you want to insert anything, if you want to open anything, everything will be command based only. And coming to the two-tier architecture, two-tier architecture is like a mainframes related. It used to support on mainframes, and the three-tier architecture used to support on Linux, Windows, and Unix and AX, all scenarios. Solaris, it's going to support. Okay. And coming to the layers. So as I mentioned initially, everything all in one. That means the DB, application, UI, everything will be hosted in one box or one laptop. And whereas in R2, so app and database is hosted on one box, and UI will be hosted on somewhere, some different box. Okay. And three-tier architecture, we have a three different scenarios like a DB layer and application layer and GUI layer. GUI is like a graphical interface. So you might be having the clarity, right? The different layers here. Why I explained in the initial itself, because you should know about this concept, then only you may able to understand the SAP. Okay, coming to the presentation, how we are getting the presentation here. So how we are getting the presentation here, if you see the SAP login pad, this is how this presentation is happening, right? So in the release one, everything will be in the command based. Everything will be the command based. And coming to the R2, everything will be the text and terminals. Everything will be the text and terminals. And the three-tier architecture is like a graphical user interface. This is how we used to access. It's a graphical user interface. Okay. And data provisioning and all, everything will be localized in R1 and centralized in R2 and the distributed. That means if you want to expand your wings, then you can easily expand your wings from R3 scenario. Expanding the wings in terms of you have 100 users in your company, whereas you are using this thing, the local and R2. So I mean R1 and R2, whereas you may not be able to, increase your capacity. Let's say so 100 users, it has been increased to 200. So if you want to increase the server capacity, you may not be able to increase it because of restrictions in the hardware level. Whereas if you want to increase the server capacity, you can increase it from R3, three-tier architecture. I mean, the latest scenarios. Okay, that is what he mentioned. Scalability and high performance, everything. It's the same. Like they are distributing the load across the systems. And the support, coming to the support point, whereas the support is absolute for R1 and R2, R3 still we are using the R3. And coming to the three tiers, the same thing we talked about, the graphical user interface, application server, and distributed servers. So I will give this document, everything will be maintained and explained clearly, point to point, what is presentation layer, what is application layer, what is database layer, everything we explained clearly here. This document will help you to understand more on this. Okay, and coming to the SAP system. So everything we discussed since yesterday we discussed, today also we discussed how we are going to access and what is the main aspects in the SAP. So SAP used to run on SID based scenario. System identification. System identification. What is system identification? I'm Manju. With my name, you guys are able to identify myself, right? So the same way, system is also having own naming convention that we call it as a system ID. So you might be something Rajesh or Naveen or Nandini somewhere, whatever it is. The name, there is some identification. How it is having the identification? The identification is totally based on the names and all. So without that, we may not be able to identify something in SAP perspective. Without that, we may not be able to identify anything in SAP perspective. So it is totally SID based and instance number base. Okay, if you see the screen, so SAP is totally is to work on system identifier and the system number concept. So what is the system number and all? System number is like you are giving it's like your door number. You are giving the door number to reach the parcel to your location. The same way, SAP is also having specific port configurations for that. So how it used to work, everything will take it in the next classes. So today, let's go and see what are the opportunities for the basis. Let me show you. Yeah. Any questions before going further? Okay. Now, so see, there is a entity opening, okay, where they are looking for 3 to 6 years of professional experience in SAP Basis and Administrator. Okay, they are looking for SAP Basis Administrator with the 3 years of experience, 3 to 6 years of experience. There is other opening with the 3 to 5 years of experience in ABAP, which is on Alliance Technology in Hyderabad. Okay, there is a 3 to 5 years of experience in Hyderabad, 3 to 5 years of experience for position. Okay, and other position is 5 years of experience for SAP basis. When they posted it is 7 hours ago they posted. Okay, 7 hours ago they posted. Okay, see the requests are 7 and 10 hours. Okay, now coming to the other thing, automatics X. It is having almost 5 plus years of experience opening. Okay, and this is about to what this position Infosys. Okay, Infosys is also having 5 years of experience. And see, we are going to talk about SAP implementation, migration, upgrade, sandbox, what is configurations and all. So if you see the course content and the JD and all, everything will be the same. Everything will be the same. Okay, you can compare. Always our course content used to be updated across the way with the latest scenarios and all. So okay, anyone is having any questions? I'm done with this session today. And if you have anything, let's have a discussion and we'll proceed with the regular classes starting.